I stand before my mother's grave, fingers trembling as I hold the single white rose I've brought. The San Diego sun scorches my black dress, my own design, though no one here would ever guess its worth. That dress looks so thrifty, Brianna mutters loudly enough for everyone to hear. I suppose it's the best you could manage with that failing little shop of yours. My jaw tightens, but I keep my gaze fixed on Mother's headstone. The polished granite mirrors the October sky, a sharp contrast to the heaviness pressing down inside me. Catherine. Ethan steps beside me, his cologne arriving before his words. If you need a loan to keep the boutique alive, just ask. I've always said money management isn't for everyone. A memory surfaces, Mother teaching 8-year-old me how to sew, her soft hands guiding mine along the fabric. They'll see your light one day, Katie, she had whispered. Just wait. The boutique was Martha's little pastime, Father declares to the small cluster of mourners. His voice carries that familiar, dismissive note reserved solely for my accomplishments. Catherine insists on holding on to it, but we all know it's just sentimentality. Always the family disappointment. My heart pounds like a trapped bird against its cage. I swallow the sting in my throat, refusing to let tears fall. Not here, not in front of them. Instead, I let my fingers trace the hem of my dress, savoring the feel of the luxurious fabric I handpicked from an Italian mill that supplies only the most elite fashion houses. The same dress Brianna just mocked costs more than her monthly rent. $25,000. My creation, my label, worn by celebrities and royalty alike. Last spring, I had shown Mother my latest collection privately, far from the family's prying eyes, inside my real headquarters. She had smiled with quiet pride. You were always destined for greatness, Catherine, she said, touching the fabrics like they were sacred. For 10 years, I've lived behind this mask, the struggling daughter clinging to her mother's shop, while in truth I've built a fashion empire under the name K. Morgan. The secrecy shielded me from their grasping hands, their need to take credit for what wasn't theirs, their inevitable pleas for money. But now Mother is gone. The one person who knew both halves of my life rests beneath fresh soil and silence. Maybe the time for pretense has ended. I managed just fine. Thank you, I tell Ethan, stepping away from his patronizing offer. Father clears his throat, drawing attention like he's about to deliver a financial report. I've already contacted a realtor about the boutique property. The location holds tremendous potential for development, and the profits would benefit the entire family. Mother left the boutique to me. I speak softly. It's not for sale. Their laughter drifts across the cemetery, too loud for a place like this, too careless for a moment of mourning. Brianna's perfectly manicured hand lands on my shoulder with exaggerated sympathy. Oh, Catherine, always so sentimental about that tiny shop. The way she says tiny shop makes it sound like a child's lemonade stand. Dad knows what's best. The property is worth far more than whatever you're earning selling homemade scarves. My father steps closer, looming over me with the practiced intimidation perfected through decades of business. We'll discuss this tomorrow at my house. 2 o'clock. Don't be difficult, Catherine. The threat beneath his words is unmistakable. They plan to take the one thing they believe matters to me, the only link to my mother they think I still hold. If only they knew. Eleanor's voice slices through the tension. She stands at the edge of the cemetery path, car keys in hand, posture protective and professional. Your conference call begins in 30 minutes. Brianna gives a dainty snort, still keeping Mother's shop assistant around. How quaint. I imagine she works for tips these days. Eleanor remains silent, her dignity guarding the truth. She's actually my executive vice president, managing operations across 12 countries. Her salary alone would make Brianna choke on her imported champagne. My father glances at his watch, frowning. Conference call about thread inventory? His weak attempt at humor dies, even in his own ears. I should leave now, follow Eleanor to the waiting car, prepare for the actual call with my Tokyo team about the new flagship store. Slip back into my real life. Instead, I choose differently. Eleanor, reschedule the call, I say, meeting her eyes with intent. I need you with me tonight. Her professional mask holds, but I catch the faint lift of her brow, surprised at my break from routine. Of course, Miss Morgan. I'll handle it. My family watches this exchange with their usual mix of confusion and dismissal. They still see what they've always seen, timid Catherine with her mother's part-time helper. Eleanor steps closer, briefly squeezing my hand in silent understanding as she moves to my side. Tomorrow, they'll see what I've built, I murmur for her ears alone. My family is already walking away, discussing dinner plans as if we hadn't just buried my mother. As if they hadn't just tried to strip me of what's mine. Their voices fade toward their gleaming cars bought on borrowed money and refinanced homes. I stay at the grave, one hand wrapped around a white rose, the other finding steadiness in Eleanor's presence. 10 years of secrets press against the edge of revelation. Mother knew this day would come. She prepared me for it. And now, so will I. Later that evening, the San Diego harbor blazes gold beneath the setting sun. I stand at my penthouse window. The same waters stretch toward the cemetery where we laid Mother to rest this morning. But 40 floors above, grief feels different, less raw, more calculated. Everything is in order, as you requested, Eleanor says, setting several folders on my glass desk. The sunset glints off her silver hair as she arranges them with precise care. I run my hand over the embossed column logo before opening the first folder. Show me everything. All business now, Eleanor nods. Ethan first. He's under active SEC investigation. Insider trading on the Westlake merger. Leveraged 300% beyond his assets. If convicted, he's looking at a minimum of 7 years. The file is thick, bank statements, credit reports, legal documents. A paper trail of my brother's unraveling. How much does he need? I ask. $850,000 for a defense team strong enough to negotiate probation. I recall his smug offer at the cemetery, his false charity. Brianna next. Eleanor opens a crimson folder. $9,500 a month for the Beverly Hills rental. Maxed out credit cards. Personal loans totaling $418,000. She's one missed payment from eviction. The photographs sting. Brianna at galas, champagne in hand, cloaked in borrowed couture, playing the part while drowning in debt. And father? I prompt. Eleanor hesitates, rare for her. Richard's portfolio collapsed after the Meridian debacle. Foreclosure notices on both coastal estates. He's been gambling with refinancing schemes. His advisor resigned last month. I pull the thick Morgan property development file and spread its contents across the desk. Land surveys, zoning applications, developer contracts. He's been plotting to sell the boutique for years. I say, the betrayal sharp despite my suspicions. 3 different developers in 5 years, Eleanor confirms. He accelerated once your mother was diagnosed. My throat tightens, waiting for her to die. There's more. Eleanor slides over her tablet. Intercepted emails from last week. I scroll, reading their strategy to corner me after the funeral. Ethan pushing psychological tactics. Brianna offering to play the caring sister. Richard orchestrating their approach. They've been sabotaging your lease renewal, Eleanor adds. Brianna's contact at City Planning has delayed your permits. I push back from the desk, walking toward the glass wall where San Diego stretches beneath me. Somewhere down there, they're congratulating themselves on carving up what they think is a modest boutique. Bring me Mother's correspondence, I say. Eleanor retrieves a leather-bound portfolio from the safe. Years of letters, cards, legal instructions, all untouched by their interference. I trace my mother's handwriting. She kept your success hidden, just as you asked, Eleanor affirms. Even from your father. A memory surfaces, Mother in her hospital bed, whispering, they never deserve to know, Katie. Never. I've spent a decade concealing my success, I murmur, more to myself than to Eleanor. Now it's my weapon. The realization settles heavy and certain. I'm no longer the daughter needing protection. I am the guardian of her legacy. The boutique was never just a store, I say. It was sanctuary from their poison. Eleanor nods. Revealing your identity will change everything. Morgan will never recover. Then let's be precise about what they're facing. I return to the desk. What does Richard need to stave off bankruptcy? $1.3 million within 60 days to halt foreclosure and maintain basic expenses. And Ethan's window? Court in 3 months. Without elite counsel, he's facing 5 years minimum and a permanent ban from finance. And Brianna? 1 month from eviction. Credit score under 500. She can't secure housing without either a cosigner or a large cash deposit. I examine their photographs, not cartoon villains, but relatives cornered by their own decisions, clinging to facades while their foundations collapse. Their fear sharpens them into a threat. I note they've nothing left to protect but appearances. Eleanor agrees. Richard has always styled himself as the patriarch despite repeated financial missteps. For them, image outweighs stability. 500? I rise. My decision is clear. What resources can we bring to bear? Eleanor shifts seamlessly into executive mode. Cam Italia's global reach is at your command. Legal counsel ready. Media contacts prepared. Financial leverage complete. I lift my phone and dial. After 2 rings, Samuel Whitaker answers in his measured tone. Samuel. It's Catherine Morgan. I need every document related to my mother's estate. Immediately. As he confirms, I return to the dossiers spread across my desk, records of financial ruin woven through our family. Do we have everything? I ask Eleanor. Comprehensive profiles. Your mother's protections are airtight. The boutique is secured within 3 trusts. I nod. Resolve settling into steel. Tomorrow, they'll see me for who I truly am. Eleanor tilts her head. Once they realize, they'll try to claim your success as theirs. A faint smile touches my lips for the first time since the funeral. That's exactly the plan. At dawn, I arrive at the boutique 3 hours before my family is due. Morning light cuts through the windows, casting long shadows across the carefully arranged sales floor, modest, tasteful, designed to preserve the image of the struggling daughter. Samuel is already inside, leather portfolio in hand, silver-rimmed glasses catching the sun. Catherine, he greets, extending a manila envelope. Your mother's final arrangements as requested. My fingers tremble as I open it. I scan the contents, then look up sharply. She left me everything, not just the boutique. Samuel's expression is grave. She revised her will last year after the diagnosis. You are sole executor with full authority over all assets. I sink into a vintage chair mother adored. They don't know. Your father assumes the estate will be divided, with him maintaining control as patriarch, Samuel explains, drawing more documents from his portfolio. But your investigator confirmed this morning's meeting. At 8 o'clock, your family sat down with Westlake developers. My stomach tightens. Already moving, before she's even cold in her grave. Samuel adjusts his glasses. They're moving fast. The developer's plan calls for tearing down this building to make way for a mixed-use complex. The documents were drafted weeks ago. I rise, smoothing the creases of my charcoal pencil skirt. They arranged the meeting at father's house. Home turf. A psychological ploy, Samuel notes, common in high-stakes negotiations. I cross to the window, watching a young woman admire the display of hand-stitched scarves. She doesn't realize the woman who designed them runs production facilities across 3 continents. We're changing the venue, I decide, turning back to Samuel. The meeting takes place here, not at his house. A gentle knock at the back door interrupts us. Eleanor steps in, carrying a leather case stamped with the Atelier's logo. The Tokyo team confirmed the flagship launch next month, she says, placing the case on the counter. And the Volante acquisition finalized yesterday. I arch a brow, news father never bothers to read. Eleanor's smile sharpens. Biggest fashion acquisition of the quarter. $2 billion. You're the majority stakeholder. Show them who Kay Morgan really is, Samuel urges, his normally reserved face lit with anticipation. I glance at my watch. 2 hours until their arrival. Eleanor, call the office. I want Javier and the design team working here when my family arrives. She nods, already typing. Full reveal, for the first time since mother's funeral. My lips twitch at the thought. Every detail in place. The boutique transforms with military precision. 40 minutes later, the quaint storefront still looks the same, but the back, once hidden behind an employees-only sign, now reveals its truth. A glass door opening to 35,000 square feet of cutting-edge design headquarters. I walk the floor, watching my top designers prepare their stations. Mannequins display next season's collection down the corridor, while awards and magazine covers line the walls my family has never set eyes on. Eleanor approaches, tablet in hand. They're early. I square my shoulders. Good. Let them wait in the shop 5 minutes. On the surveillance monitor, I watch them file in, faces tight with impatience. Brianna fingers a display dress, her lip curling with disdain. Ethan checks his watch again and again, while father stands at the center, hands clasped behind his back like a general surveying conquered land. They have no idea, Eleanor murmurs. Time to enlighten them. I move to the door, pausing with my hand on the handle. 10 years of concealing my success, enduring their condescension, shielding myself from their inevitable demands. It all ends the moment I step through. I push the door open and enter the boutique. Thank you for coming, I say, voice steady. If you'll follow me, we can discuss Mother's estate in my actual office. Confusion flashes across their faces as I lead them past the employees-only sign and through the glass doors. Their reactions are instant. Brianna's sharp gasp, Ethan's stumble, father's brief stillness. Miss Morgan, the Paris team needs your approval on the fabric selections. A young designer calls, holding a tablet as we pass. Thank you, Adrian. Tell them cerulean for the fall collection. I reply smoothly, never breaking stride. Father's face clouds. What is this, Catherine? I lead them into my executive conference room, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the San Diego skyline. Documents are neatly placed at each chair. This, I say, motioning for them to sit, is permanent. Welcome to the West Coast headquarters, one of 12 facilities around the globe.
Kim.
Brianna's gaze locks on the logo displayed on the wall, her manicured hand flying to cover her mouth. You're K. Morgan. I take my place at the head of the table. I am. Ethan grabs the closest folder. His eyes widen as he scans the pages. This shows an annual revenue of $2.4 billion consistently. What? Father snaps, clearly shaken. I rest my hands calmly on the polished surface. 52 stores worldwide. 7,200 employees. Father slams his palm against the table. This is ridiculous. You've been running a little boutique your mother left you. No, I answer evenly. I've been running a global fashion empire that I built with my own hands. The boutique was only the face I allowed you to see. I click a button on the remote. The wall screen flickers to life, revealing financial records. And I know about your situations. All of them. The color drains from their faces as their own names appear across foreclosure notices, SEC investigations, and credit reports. You've been lying to us for years, Brianna spits, fury trembling in her voice. I've been protecting myself, I correct her. From exactly this, your attempts to control, belittle, or claim what I created. The silence that follows is suffocating. For the first time in my adult life, my family has nothing to say. Eleanor steps in carrying another leather-bound portfolio. The Volante acquisition papers you requested, Miss Morgan. Thank you, Eleanor. I slide the documents across to my family. The news you missed yesterday, my company finalized its $2 billion acquisition of Volante. Father tries to recover, straightening his shoulders. As your father, I should have been informed. I could have guided you. Opened doors. No, my voice is steady, not cruel. You forfeited that right when you dismissed everything I accomplished as mother's little hobby. When you named me the family disappointment at her funeral. Samuel enters with another stack of papers. The estate documents you requested, Miss Morgan. Thank you, Samuel. I face them again. Mother knew precisely what she was doing. She made me executor of the entire Morgan estate, not just the boutique. Samuel nods. Your mother ensured it with multiple witnesses and airtight records. Father's face reddens with rage. This is outrageous. I am the head of this family. I make the decisions about our legacy. Not anymore, I say softly. I'm willing to help, but only on my terms. Brianna and Ethan exchange uneasy glances. The truth has settled in. Their survival now rests with me, sitting across from them in a dress worth more than their monthly expenses combined. As I take in their stunned expressions, a thought crosses my mind. Do I set terms right away, or let them sit with the truth for a while longer? Morning light filters through the boardroom's glass walls, stretching long rectangles across the polished mahogany table. It's been 3 days since I revealed my true identity to my family. The rush of watching their shock has passed, replaced by something sharper, something calculated. We need to consider every possible response, I say, scanning the financial advisors seated across from me. Their faces remain neutral, exactly the professionalism I need. Eleanor sits at my right, her silver-streaked hair swept into a neat chignon, her tablet glowing with our agenda. At the far end, my legal team spreads manila folders across the table, drafts neatly arranged. This isn't about emotions anymore, I tell them, though part of me wonders if it ever was. I need full analysis, tax implications if I extend support, media strategy, business reputation safeguards. My chief counsel slides 3 folders forward. As you requested, we've prepared conditional assistance agreements for each family member. I open the first. Richard's tenancy contract allows him to stay in a company-owned property smaller than his current home, but still comfortable for a man of 72. The second outlines Ethan's legal representation, top-tier counsel, but only if he fully cooperates with the SEC investigation. The third offers Brianna an entry-level sales trainee role at our accessories branch, $18 an hour, no exceptions.
No fathers. No shortcuts.
Standard performance reviews. Eleanor studies me closely. They'll see any concession as weakness to exploit. I snap the folder shut. That's why every dollar comes with accountability. The finance director raises questions about inheritance tax. The PR team debates how to manage the optics if these agreements leak to the industry press. I listen carefully, asking sharp questions, weighing angles I hadn't considered. The light shifts across the table as morning gives way to afternoon. My team works with flawless precision, like a Swiss timepiece. Every gear aligned. This is what makes Cam Italia dominate global markets. Not just my designs, but the people I've chosen to carry them out. Later, back in my office, Eleanor brings coffee and another folder, this one tracking my family's moves since the confrontation. Your father has spoken with 3 competing law firms about contesting your mother's will, she reports, setting the cup beside my computer. The firm in La Jolla is especially aggressive with inheritance disputes. I nod. Shadows stretch across the office floor. The work feels meticulous, thorough. I've spent 10 years building this company with that same discipline. A notification pings on my phone at the same moment Eleanor frowns at her tablet. Fashion Week Insider just posted something, she says. They're claiming Kay Morgan is really Richard Morgan's creation, with you as just the public face. A chill settles in my chest. I pull the article onto my screen. An anonymous source claims my father has been the creative mind behind CMX Atelier for years. 10 minutes ago, Brianna's friend Melissa liked and shared it. Eleanor points out the social activity. Anger cuts through the calm I've been holding. This is more than an attack on my inheritance. It's an assault on my identity, my career. I expected financial gains, I say tightly. But this is different. They're trying to erase everything I built. Eleanor nods. They're moving with more strategy than we assumed. The stakes are no longer just money. Your reputation is in play. I rise, the decision forming sharp in my voice. They won't take what I've built. Even to my ears, I sound different, unyielding. It's time for phase 2. 4 days later, I meet with my legal team to finalize every detail. The conference room is quiet except for pages turning, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the San Diego skyline gleaming beyond. Each contract targets a specific weakness, I explain, tapping the stack of papers. Father can stay in a smaller home as my tenant, but only if he publicly acknowledges that I alone built this company. Ethan gets the top SEC defense attorney, but only if he cooperates fully with the investigation and admits to his own misconduct instead of deflecting blame. The attorney nods approvingly. The terms are fair but firm. Miss Morgan and Brianna. Eleanor asks. I slide forward the third contract sales trainee position at our Beverly Hills subsidiary, $18 an hour. Standard performance evaluations, no special treatment. Eleanor raises an eyebrow. She won't like starting at the bottom. She needs to understand what actual work looks like. I square the contracts into a neat pile. This isn't about punishment. It's about establishing reality. My mind shifts to strategy. We present these as non-negotiable. They can accept my terms or walk away with nothing. They'll see this as an attack. The attorney warns it's a business negotiation. I reply, rolling my shoulders to release the tension, not a family reconciliation. Eleanor's phone vibrates. She glances at the screen, her expression tightening. Catherine. Her voice carries an urgency I rarely hear. Your father has scheduled a press conference for tomorrow morning. What? The word escaped sharper than I intended. Eleanor turns her laptop toward me. Richard Morgan will announce the family behind K. Morgan at 9 tomorrow. I feel the blood draining from my face. A decade of careful work, my reputation, my independence, threatened in minutes by a desperate old man. He can't prove anything. The attorney says quickly. It's just bluster. He doesn't need proof. I counter, standing abruptly. Just enough confusion to damage our brand and the Volante acquisition. My heart hammers against my ribs, but my voice remains steady. They're trying to force my hand. For a moment, the gravity of what I've built, what's at stake, threatens to overwhelm me. Then clarity cuts through the chaos like a perfectly placed scene. Move everything forward. I decide tonight, not tomorrow. Tonight. Eleanor looks surprised, but doesn't question my judgment. They think they have time to prepare. I reach for my phone. Let's show them. They don't. My fingers dial Samuel's number. Samuel. We need to move the meeting to tonight, 7 o'clock. I pause, listening. Yes. Everything must be in place. Tomorrow morning they intend to reveal themselves as the faces behind K. Morgan. Eleanor is already typing at a furious pace, alerting our teams. The attorney gathers the contracts, jotting down last-minute notes. Will the board back speeding up this timeline? He asks. They've already approved our strategy, I remind him. The timing doesn't change that. Outside the window, clouds mass over the harbor, the shifting weather echoing the storm that's been building in my career for a decade. I've lived in the shadows of their dismissal long enough. Tonight that ends. Eleanor finishes her calls and approaches, with quiet resolve. Security is confirmed. Legal will have the revised documents within the hour. PR is standing by. I nod, an unexpected calm settling over me. Richard always said business depends on perfect timing. I allow myself a small smile, just not in the way he meant. The team disperses, leaving only Eleanor and me in the conference room. They won't see this coming, she says, her confidence unshaken. We're ready. I close my eyes briefly, thinking of my mother. The boutique was never just a shop to her. It was a refuge from my father's constant belittling, a space where creativity outshone cruelty. It's time, I say, opening my eyes. Time to protect my mother's legacy. Eleanor squeezes my hand, brief but meaningful. And yours, she adds. The next hours blur into focused preparation, documents reprinted, security stationed, evidence organized. With each passing minute, I feel myself shifting from the daughter they dismissed to the business leader I've always been. Tonight they will meet not the Catherine they thought they knew, but K. Morgan, the CEO of a fashion empire built without their knowledge or support. Tonight the family who never believed in me will finally see what I'm capable of. That evening, I grip the polished conference table as Thomas Volante steps in behind my father. The Italian designer's presence hits me like a blow. The founder of the luxury label I acquired only last week should be in Milan preparing for Fashion Week, not standing in my San Diego office beside my father. Catherine. My father's voice carries the same dismissive authority he's used my entire life. Even as foreclosure notices pile up at his coastal estate, he gestures to Thomas as though introducing old friends. I believe you know Mr. Volante. Eleanor moves a fraction closer to my chair, A subtle shift of loyalty my father can't miss. Miss Morgan. Thomas Volante's accent wraps around my name like expensive silk, concealing a blade. Or should I say K. Morgan? It seems we have much to discuss about the acquisition terms. My stomach knots. Of all the contingencies we prepared, this alliance was never among them. What's this about? I ask evenly, though my pulse hammers in my ears. Brianna slides a leather portfolio across the table, her smile recalling how she used to dangle my favorite dolls just out of reach. The Volante acquisition numbers. She taps manicured nails against the folder. Thomas has concerns about how they were presented. Ethan leans forward, his cologne overpowering the faint lilies Eleanor arranged earlier. The board may be interested in how you've maintained two separate identities while running a publicly traded company. The pieces lock together. This isn't just about the boutique anymore. They've found the one pressure point I hadn't foreseen. Thomas opens the portfolio, revealing spreadsheets I know from our confidential negotiations. These Milan factory projections look tampered with. My father straightens, triumph flickering across his face. One chance, Catherine. Bring the family into leadership. Board seats for Ethan and me. VP of Public Relations for Brianna. We're protecting you from yourself. Brianna's voice oozes false concern, the same tone she used when convincing Mother I wasn't fit for design school. The shareholders deserve to know who really runs this company, Thomas adds, clearing his throat. If these irregularities surface, the acquisition could stall or collapse. The market hates uncertainty. Ethan adjusts his tie, perfectly composed despite the SEC investigation hanging over him. For one sharp instant, I know the Securities and Exchange Commission would be curious about how I've hidden my identity all these years. Doubt stirs inside me. They've escalated past anything I anticipated. Beyond the boutique. Beyond inheritance. They're aiming straight for everything I've built. My phone vibrates once. I tilt it to glimpse Eleanor's text. Contingency protocol. I nod slightly and type one word. Activate. Without a sound, Eleanor leaves. Her footsteps fade, silence settling as my family trades smug glances. You understand the stakes, my father says, not asking but declaring. This isn't just family. It's your whole company, your reputation. I rise slowly, buying seconds. You've clearly prepared for this. Brianna's smile sharpens. We always suspected you were hiding something, just not something this valuable. The conference room door opens before I can reply. Eleanor reappears with Samuel Whitaker and two of my attorneys, all carrying tablets and thick folders. Samuel offers his hand, courteous and calm. A pleasure to see you again, Mr. Volante. Confusion clouds Thomas's expression as Samuel lays a document before him. Your signed acknowledgement of Catherine Morgan's identity as CM Morgan. Dated before acquisition talks. Notarized and witnessed. Color drains from Thomas's face as he stares at his own signature. Eleanor connects her tablet to the display. Shall I play the recording from last night? The one where Mr. Morgan offered you 10% of his board compensation in exchange for support today. My father stiffens. You've been recording us? Not you specifically. I answer, steady now, their shock strengthening my voice. All acquisition calls are recorded. Thomas contacted our team yesterday. Standard protocol flagged his words. The attorneys hand out heavy document packets, the weight pressing Brianna back in her chair. These are your choices, I say, watching triumph slip into unease. Every scenario covered, every countermeasure prepared. Eleanor taps her screen, shifting the display to complex charts. This is what happens if you fight the acquisition. This is what happens if you involve the SEC. This is what happens if you go public. Samuel steps forward. These are the conditions Miss Morgan is willing to present if you choose cooperation over conflict. I watch as comprehension spreads across their faces, the realization dawning that I've been preparing for this moment as carefully as they have, only with far greater resources. You have 1 hour to decide, I say, collecting my notes and rising to my feet. My terms are final. I have an emergency board meeting to attend. You're leaving us here? Ethan asks, his once condescending tone stripped away. Eleanor will address any questions. Samuel will verify the legality of the documents. I pause at the doorway, turning back to meet their eyes. If you reject what I've offered, I will sever all ties. Permanently. Thomas Valente steps toward me, resignation in his expression. The acquisition will continue as planned, I assure him, as long as there are no further complications. As I leave, Eleanor's voice carries behind me. Miss Morgan has made it clear, she won't negotiate further. These terms are final. Samuel adds, the documents are binding once signed. I advise you read them carefully. The boardroom door shuts at my back, and for the first time since my mother's funeral, I allow myself a full, steady breath. The stakes are higher than ever, but so is my resolve. Their choice in the next hour will decide the future of our relationship. Squaring my shoulders, I head toward the waiting board members. By the time I return, I'll know if I still have a family. 10 minutes later, I step back onto the executive floor, my heels echoing a steady rhythm across the polished marble. The sound announces me before I even turn into the conference room, where my family sits with the contracts. Silence falls at my entrance. Richard stands rigid at the window, silhouetted against the San Diego skyline, pride etched into every line of his posture. Brianna perches on the edge of a leather chair, her phone clutched tightly in manicured hands. Ethan paces near the door, his trademark smirk replaced by tension around his eyes. Behind me, board members and senior staff file in, taking their positions along the wall. Witnesses, professionals who have respected me for years, unlike my own family, who dismissed me for just as long. Have you reached a decision? I ask, pressing my palms flat against the polished table. This is absurd, Catherine. Richard finally turns from the window, his voice carrying the authority he's wielded over me all my life. These terms are insulting. I built this family. I gave you everything. Everything. A laugh slips from me, sharper than I intended. You gave me nothing but criticism, doubt, and dismissal. It was Mother who gave me belief. Richard's face hardens. Your mother would want you to forgive family. She prized loyalty above everything else. The words strike me like a punch to the chest. He drags our mother's memory into his last attempt at control. For a moment, the familiar guilt surfaces, the old instinct to yield, to maintain peace, flickers around the edges of my resolve. Then I recall the letters. Mother knew exactly who you were. I reached for the leather portfolio. Eleanor had pressed it into my hands just before I walked in. That's why she shielded me from you. I draw out a bundle of letters tied with a faded blue ribbon. Mother's handwriting flows across the worn paper in graceful cursive. I set them on the table and pushed them toward Richard. She kept records of everything. Every slight remark, every attempt to diminish my work, every whispered scheme about rescuing me from what you dismissed as my little hobby. When she was gone, Ethan froze mid-step. You're bluffing. Page 16. I don't break my gaze from Richard. The night you suggested selling my boutique property to cover your SEC legal fees. Brianna darts forward to snatch the letters, but Eleanor steps in and lays a thick folder on the table. Miss Morgan asked me to document as well, Eleanor says, her voice steady with the weight of years spent witnessing manipulation. Every phone call where you belittled Catherine's abilities, every attempt to pressure her landlord into breaking her lease. Richard's face turns crimson. This is a business negotiation, not a therapy session. Your grievances have no place here. They're entirely relevant, says Thomas Volante, entering the room. My pulse skips. Richard had counted on Thomas, the founder of the luxury house I recently acquired, the man my father tried to rope into destabilizing my company. Richard's glare melts into a smug grin. Thomas understands what this is about. I do, Thomas replies, giving me a nod before turning to my family, which is why I need to clarify something. Yesterday, Richard offered me a sizable kickback if I threatened to withdraw from our acquisition deal. Silence falls. Even the board members shift uncomfortably. That's ridiculous, Richard blurts. You are protecting family interests by trying to sabotage mine, I counter. Just like always. I confront each of them with evidence, the SEC documents that show Ethan shifting blame onto junior associates. Brianna's own draft of a social media rollout, where she crowned herself the creative mind behind K. Morgan. And Richard's signed proposal to sell my boutique property to developers, dated weeks before Mother passed away. The board chairman clears his throat, his words carrying the weight of consensus. Miss Morgan built this company without relying on her family. We've seen her dedication, her vision, and her integrity firsthand. Richard's eyes darken. This is a family issue. No, I correct him firmly. This is a business decision. And now the business is mine. I slide 3 folders across the table, one for each family member. Sign the contracts now, or walk away with nothing. The mood shifts instantly. The small victory I claimed at the boutique pales beside this moment. This isn't fleeting. This is final. Ethan folds first, ever the realist. He knows when he's beaten. He scans the contract, jaw tightening at the clause binding him to full cooperation with the SEC investigation in return for legal representation. This legal team will cost a fortune, he mutters, reaching for a pen. Yes, it will. I reply evenly. My fortune. Richard watches his son sign, disbelief etched into every crease of his face. His control, the bedrock of his identity, crumbles before him. For 72 years, he's moved through life by intimidation and authority. But now, in a room full of witnesses, that power dissolves. Brianna stares at me, tears welling. You really don't need us, do you? Her question carries the weight of a lifetime spent assuming I was the weak one. The failure. The one who needed saving. I never did. I'm offering you a chance anyway, I tell her honestly. Her hand trembles as she picks up the pen. The contract before her spells out her new role as a sales trainee, $18 an hour, standard evaluation metrics.
No exceptions.
It's generous, considering her complete lack of experience. It's more than generous, considering her years of ridicule. Richard stays on his feet, pride clashing with financial reality. The foreclosure notices on his coastal properties leave him little choice, but surrender tastes bitterer to him than to his children. This is how you honor your mother, by humiliating your father? His voice breaks on the final word. Mother left you a choice in her will. I remind him. Live in the 3-bedroom rental I'm offering, or find your own housing. Those are still the options. The board stands firmly behind me. Eleanor and Samuel flank me like sentinels for the first time in my life. I'm no longer the one outnumbered in family battles. Richard's hand shakes as he finally reaches for the pen. The signature he scrawls barely resembles his once confident handwriting. The man who called me a disappointment at my mother's funeral now signs my terms just to keep a roof over his head. One by one, they sign 3 signatures, 3 acknowledgments that Catherine Morgan built her empire herself. 3 admissions that the family narrative was a lie. The weight pressing on my chest for a decade begins to lift. This isn't the reconciliation some might have wished for, but it's the resolution I needed. I'll have copies sent to your respective addresses, Samuel says as he gathers the signed contracts. Is that all? Richard asks, his voice flat. That's all, I confirm. The terms are clear, Richard. You'll have access to the rental property starting tomorrow. Ethan, the legal team will reach out Monday. Brianna, orientation begins next week. They rise to leave, diminished in ways that go beyond money. Their facades have crumbled, exposing the truth. I had always known but never admitted it. Their power over me existed only because I allowed it. As they file out, Eleanor steps closer. Your mother would be so proud of your strength, she says. I watch my family, my own blood, walk away. They're not enemies to be vanquished. They're simply people who must now live with the consequences of their choices. This isn't revenge, I say quietly. It's boundaries. The distinction matters. Revenge aims to harm. Boundaries aim to protect. For too long, I hid my success, believing secrecy was the only form of protection. Now I know that real protection comes from standing firmly in my truth. The conference room empties until only Eleanor and I remain. The signed contracts aren't just business agreements, they're a personal declaration. I am Catherine Morgan, founder and CEO of Kumatalia, daughter of Martha Morgan. I built an empire while they weren't looking. and now they'll live within its boundaries. The sun sets over San Diego Bay, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. Mother loved this time of day, the transition between worlds. She called it standing in my power at last. Now, I finally understand what she meant. The New York Times headline glows on my tablet. Fashion's best-kept secret. Catherine Morgan revealed as Kay Morgan. 6 weeks since my mother's funeral. 3 since the revelation that shattered my family's illusions. The article chronicles my path from design school graduate to global fashion empire builder, all while maintaining the facade of running a struggling boutique. The comment section's overwhelmingly positive, Eleanor says, sliding a sales report across my desk. Web traffic's up 45% since the article broke. Instagram followers doubled overnight. I nod, still adjusting to this new reality, being truly seen after a decade in the shadows. Any word from Richard? I ask. Your father settled into the Coronado condo, Eleanor replies. He donated most of his furniture to that veterans housing project. Her expression softens. He called yesterday. Actually asked if you'd mind if he volunteered at that retirement community design program. That surprises me. The one teaching seniors to alter their own clothing. The very same. Eleanor glances at her notes. Ethan's attorney confirmed the crypto transfer, $1.8 million toward the designer restitution fund. Apparently, he's been keeping quite detailed records of everyone he's financially inconvenienced over the years. I turn toward the window, watching sailboats glide across San Diego Bay, while Brianna wrapped up her first week of sales training. She'd already clashed with her supervisor twice, then surprised everyone by staying late to completely reorganize the accessory display. Her manager remarked on her unexpected gift for connecting with customers. 10 years of keeping my achievements hidden, of building barriers between myself and my family, dissolved in a single afternoon. Now we're venturing into uncharted territory, a relationship built on truth instead of illusion. Eleanor sets a folder before me. The Morgan Fund for Emerging Designers. Just needs your signature. I sign without a second thought. It feels right, turning media attention away from family scandals and towards something that creates opportunities for others. I spent a decade hiding, I say, capping my pen. Now I'm visible. But this isn't about me anymore. 6 months later, I stand at center stage of the International Design Awards. I wear my mother's vintage dress, updated with subtle modern touches. The stage lights no longer unsettle me. It's my honor to present this year's Breakthrough Designer Award, I announce, my voice steady and strong in the crowded ballroom. The contrast to the fragile woman at my mother's grave couldn't be sharper. That day, I held a single white rose while relatives dismissed everything I had accomplished. Tonight, I stand before an industry that values what I've created. Richard sits at a nearby table, his suit tailored to his slimmer frame. When our eyes meet, he offers a small nod. No longer the imposing figure demanding obedience, he's found new purpose, teaching retired craftspeople how to adapt clothing for mobility needs. Ethan sits beside him, reviewing notes for tomorrow's mentorship session with young designers on contract law, his legal skills now devoted to protection rather than exploitation. And Brianna, wearing a dress from the affordable line she helped design, chats animatedly with buyers. Her gift for connecting with people has earned her a real promotion to regional sales director, not by family privilege, but by merit. The Velante integration has outperformed projections, Eleanor whispers when I return to our table after presenting the award. And the educational program launches next month. I squeeze her hand silently. She has been my anchor through all of this. When my mother's design journals were published last month with my introduction, I finally understood why she kept my secret. Not to dim my light, but to protect it from being stolen by those who hadn't earned it. On Sunday evening, we gather around my penthouse dining table, the same family configuration as so many dinners before. Yet everything feels transformed. The quarterly results look promising, I remark, passing a serving dish to Richard. Though what excites me more are the Morgan recovery grant outcomes. 3 designers already saved from bankruptcy, Eleanor adds, noting she has taken charge of the foundation with her usual precision. We're carrying your mother's legacy forward, nurturing talent. Richard serves himself a modest portion, a man still learning new rhythms. I've been thinking about Martha's first sewing machine, he says thoughtfully. The singer with the gold details. It should be displayed, where people can recognize its importance. We've set aside space in the company museum, I tell him, along with her original sketches. Brianna leans in. Speaking of the foundation, I've been thinking about a scholarship program for the design school, maybe in Mother's name. I've been working with some of the current students, and their financial struggles are real. A year ago, Brianna would have dismissed them without a second thought. Now she sees them as deserving of support. The change isn't flawless. We all carry our pasts, but it's sincere. Ethan talks about legal protections for young designers, his knowledge serving now as a shield instead of a weapon. For the first time, I see my brother's intelligence without the shadow of manipulation. When dinner ends, I stand by the window, looking out at the lights of San Diego, the same city where we laid my mother to rest nearly a year ago. The family that gathered then feels distant from the one sitting in my living room tonight. Success isn't about what you possess or control, I tell them. It's about the integrity you hold while creating it. Eleanor lifts her glass slightly. And the people you help along the way. I brush the locket that holds a thread from Mother's first sewing project. The truest legacy isn't in what we build, but in how we help others build their dreams. Mother knew that. At last, I do too. And, remarkably, so does my family.